Ryan Day didn't reinvent the wheel this offseason because sometimes if it ain't broke, you don't fix it.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Victory Monday around here at Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, that's your sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. During today's show, we will discuss what is to come for Ohio State throughout the rest of the offseason, as well as a few questions we still need answers to. But first, we have made it to the point in the offseason where official visits are complete, the recruiting camps are over, the portal acquisitions are done, and a lot of people are wondering, how should we feel about Ohio State's offseason so far leading into the 2025 season? And there are a lot of people that are excited. Some are still uneasy because they have unanswered questions. But overall, I believe you and myself, all of us should feel fired up about what Ohio State is going to do in the fall. Once again, Ryan Day came into an offseason. It didn't try to change everything or change half of the things. He stuck to his blueprint. He stuck to his game plan. It's a game plan that works. It's a blueprint that helped Ohio State win the Natty a year ago. And he set Ohio State up once again to win the Natty in 2025. Yeah, there's a QB competition still going on. There are some new coaches. But the formula is still the same. And Ryan Day, when hiring people and bringing guys in from the portal, he's sticking to the same formula. Because what he's been doing ain't broke. So there's no reason to fix something that has been working so well. And there's a lot of things going on with Ohio State right now, especially on the recruiting side of things there. You want more numbers, but not having more numbers right now isn't the end of the world. But when it comes to really just being fired up and excited about what's to come with Ohio State in the fall, I mean, you can look no further than the portal. I mean, what Ryan Day has done in the portal once again is put an emphasis on the quality players and not the quantity. You can look around the country and find schools all over, north, south, east, and west, that focus on the numbers. Maybe we got to get 20 guys in the portal. We got to get 35 guys in the portal. They go out there and get those numbers, bring them in, but what do you find? They don't translate to success on the field. Colorado being an example of that. I'm not here to knock Deion Sanders. I don't want to call him man, Coach Prime. Deion Sanders. I don't want to knock him for that because at Colorado, when he got there, he had to fit what he wanted to do with the team. He had to go out there and get some of the bad apples out and bring some different apples in. First year wasn't really the best. Second year there was improvement. Without Shedeur and without Travis Hunter, what will happen in Colorado? That's to be determined. But we still know there's a formula out there in Colorado. While it has brought some success, it hasn't been the success that Ohio State's had. With the portal specifically, Ryan Day has been very strategic, going out there and getting the best tight end in the portal, going out there and getting a running guy from West Virginia, going out there and getting 2 tackles. One's going to start this year. Another one may start in the following year, but you're bringing guys in that you know are going to be able to compete and fit right in with the culture at Ohio State. Think about what other schools are doing. Even the previous year at Ohio State, Ryan Day went out there and got Will Howard. Ryan Day got a Quinshawn Judkins, got a Caleb Downs, a Julian Sayin, a Will Kazmarek, and others. Why is he being so strategic? Because he understands that his formula works. And when you got something that works, you know it in your home. You know that you and your wife have a plan and you have things that have worked for you for years. Then all of a sudden you see something on the Instagram that is persuading you to change what has been working for you and your wife for so long. All of a sudden you feed into and lean into what you saw on the IG. And the next thing you know, your wife is like, why'd you do that? Why aren't we communicating like we normally do? Why aren't the things in the home the way they used to be? And you say, well, it's because I saw something on the Instagram. And that's what she's like, wait, so you didn't even talk to me about these changes. You went out there and did something because somebody persuaded you to? Oh, man, that could lead to some conversations you don't want to have. But that's what some coaches do. They get persuaded one way or another to make a lot of changes without going to the proper channels before making said changes, and it leads to disaster. Well, Ryan Day, I'm pleased with his portal acquisitions, his portal method and his blueprint. Even going out there and getting a guy in the quarterback in the portal that's a quarterback that's not going to play. What does he do? He adds a leader, a strong voice in the room that's desperately needed when you have a very young and inexperienced QB room with Julian Sayin, Lincoln Kienholtz, and Tavian St. Clair. Not only were the portal acquisitions very big this year for you to be fired up, or all of us to be fired up, think about the guys that Ryan Day was able to retain on the roster. Sonny Styles, Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, Dave Sidigbenosin, Jermaine Matthews Jr. Some of these guys could have gone to the NFL, made millions of dollars. Some of them could have gone into the portal and made some money and gone to another team. But Ryan Day did a great job of retaining the core players on the team. Even the fact that at the end of spring, that Ryan Day was able to retain both Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholtz and Tavian St. Clair, literally all three. When you realize the top two, the older two, are the two that are in the QB competition, it wouldn't have shocked me if the guy that was second in the competition at the end of spring went to the portal. Why? Because I believe both guys in the fall are starting caliber quarterbacks. They're going to go through growing pains. They're going to go through some hiccups, but they're starting caliber quarterbacks. And if you're QB2 at the end of spring, but you believe that you are a QB1 somewhere in college football, in my brain, it would have made a whole lot of sense for those guys to go to the portal, but they didn't. Ryan Day retained the vets, retained some key guys. But, man, recruiting has been good. It's been very, very good. Tyler Bowen coming in, go talk more about Mr. Bowen later in the show, but him coming in and quickly picking up and quickly buying into what Ryan Day is wanting from all of his coaches, but also getting 3 offensive line commits in a short period of time. I don't have a hat on right now, but I would do a tip of the cap to that young man because he hasn't really coached the offensive line before. So that's a learning curve for him as well. While he's coming in and doing a lot of great things, what are you finding? He is all in with being a Buckeye. The players, the new and the old, are also in with him being a coach for the team. It seems like everything is working for Ohio State. Ohio State just won the national championship last year. That's not news for anybody. That's something that we are literally excited about. That's why every Monday around here is Victory Monday, because the Buckeyes won their last game, and that win was a national championship. And so when you are a team that just did that, it would be very, very easy for your team or the players inside the locker room to mess up with the culture, man. Because winning a natty, you get that nice ring, and you get all that attention and the publicity, and you get the celebration inside the shoe. It's so big, make your brain and your head swell up so big that if you're watching me right now on the YouTube at Locked on Buckeyes, just search that thing on the YouTube. You can find this show and every show we produce. It would be so easy for that thing to just be so big, bigger than the screen you're watching me on right now. But these guys, Caleb Downs, Caden Curry, they said, oh, no. That banner for winning the national championship last year, pull that bad boy down. Because while we were the ones that played last year, a lot of these guys on this team that are going to play next year, they weren't a part of that. They don't understand what the culture is to win a national championship. They don't know what the grind is like to win the natty. Take that down. To a lot of teams who look at that and say, no, keep that up. That's my accomplishment or our accomplishment. They say, no. We got to take that down and keep the standard high and act like we're not trying to win back-to-back. We're trying to just win one. I love the mindset. I love the culture. There's so many ways and so many reasons for Ohio State fans to be fired up about this upcoming season. I truly believe Ohio State set themselves up to be a team that could win back-to-back national championships, and it would be the first time in Ohio State history that the football program has won back-to-back natties. While there are a lot of reasons for everybody to be fired up about what is to come for Ohio State, there are also some things that are unsettled that you and I still want answers to. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. And new to FanDuel, New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Once again, are you new to FanDuel? Well, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Thank you all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. One thing I want to remind everybody before we go any further is to subscribe or follow to Locked On Buckeyes on the YouTube, on the Apple, or the Spotify apps, or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Make sure you also hit that bell on the YouTube or the notification button on your podcast app so you get notified every time a new show goes live. While there are new shows going live, one thing we want to do right here on this show is kind of dive into some things that are still a little up in the air. Because we got questions about Ohio State, and some of the questions we have not been answered. They won't be answered until the middle of the season. That's not a really fun thing to say after talking about how fired up fans should be about the upcoming year, but that's where things are right now for Ohio State. This team is building towards something. That something is very special. But while building towards something very special, they still have not announced a QB1. Not at all. And while we all can speculate who that quarterback will be or who it should be, internally, I still think Ryan Day is handling this thing like a true quarterback competition. Different than 2023 with McCord and Brown, and different than even last year with Will Howard, when everybody and their mama knew that Will Howard was going to be QB1 for Ohio State. I think this year's race is even closer than the 23 race because I think both these guys can legitimately sling that thing around. I mean, they can go. We're in 23, which that may be the closest race that Ryan Day had, even closer than Jack Mill III and C.J. Stroud. It was clear that Kyle McCord was a better quarterback. That Devin Brown wasn't the thrower, wasn't the processor, wasn't the mover around, be able to maneuver in the pocket to make sure going through progressions and things of that nature. This is going to be closer. Both guys are very green. Both guys are very talented. These two guys have different skill sets, and Sayin being the more true pocket passer with Kienholtz being the more dual threat option, which I think with what Ryan Day wants, at least what he says he wants, that may be the future quarterback under Ryan Day. But in all actuality, what Ryan Day has actually produced on the field with the quarterbacks that he's coaching is guys that are pocket passers. Guys that are athletic in Fields and Stroud and Will Howard, but they primarily do their damage in the pocket. And so while I think Kienholtz's dual threat ability is amazing and something I think would be a great asset for this team, I still think that this year you're going to still find, no matter if it's Kienholtz or Sayin, that the quarterback's going to do a lot of their damage inside the pocket. I've said it once. I'll say it again. I'm not going to get any further without mentioning that I still believe Julian will be QB1. And I said this with the crossover with Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football, where Ohio State posted a graphic. Now, I have not gone to the Ohio State Instagram in a while to double-check this, but I know when that thing came out, they posted a graphic from EA Sports College Football 26, and the first opening picture, graphic, screenshot from the game was Ryan Day in the tunnel. Other players were behind him, but right next to him, to his right, with both of his numbers visible for the screen, was Julian Sayin. Now, I don't think that was a mistake at all to put that right there, because if you put number 3 next to Ryan Day, it doesn't hit the same as when you put number 10 next to Ryan Day. It's more clickable. It's better for everybody involved trying to get all the clicks and views for that post, but that might be a sign of things to come where that's QB1, because I don't think you would post that if it was your backup quarterback. Not at all. You post that for a guy who you think is your starting quarterback, and that might be a sign, unofficially, that what we think is going to happen actually does, that Julian Sayin wins the quarterback competition. Another little thing that is a question or may have some people unsettled is how Ohio State responds, not just week 1, but throughout the season, with the lofty expectations. And this is loftier than normal. In any given year, Ohio State is viewed as a team that should win the national championship every single year. You got Alabama, you got Oregon, who's up there right now, who has a talent. Alabama is expected by their fans to win the Natty. You have Georgia. USC fans might be trying to get on that train that's trying to propel USC to get back to being a national championship contender, especially with all the money the Trojans are spending via NIL to land 30-plus guys to verbally commit to the school at this point in the offseason. But you don't know how Ohio State's going to respond. You don't. Remember, I said there's something that you won't know the answers to until halfway through the season, which is not what you want to hear, especially on a Victory Monday. I feel like a Monday where we're talking about being excited about the accomplishments Ohio State might have this year, but you have no idea. Ryan Day has done a pretty good job of handling expectations until you get to one game. Until you get to the 12th game of the regular season, Ryan Day generally does a pretty good job of handling the expectations, leveling himself, not getting too high, not getting too low. There are things that still are questions that you and I might have about how Ryan Day does certain things, but for the most part, Ryan Day is pretty even keel. Now, as I say that, I'm thinking back to flashbacks to Ryan Day after beating Notre Dame on the road there at Notre Dame Stadium, where he called out Lou Holtz. And I think that was the time when I think it was a Pat McAfee skit where a guy on Pat McAfee's show was dressed up as Lou Holtz, but Ryan Day thought it was actually Lou Holtz. I think that's what happened. Don't say that's gospel, but I think that was a scenario where Ryan Day called out Lou Holtz when I don't even really believe Lou Holtz said anything. If he did, he did. Great. But that was one of those times where Ryan Day got a little out of character. Now, I'm not saying that's not who he is, but in front of the media and in front of cameras, Ryan Day has a demeanor. It's a pretty good demeanor for a guy who's running a program like Ohio State's football program, but he does a pretty good job of staying level and not getting too high and not getting too low. But not just Ryan Day. Yeah, there's new coaches involved. Matt Patricia's here as a defensive coordinator. Brian Hartline is promoted once again to OC, but now he's a first-time play caller. Coach Key is now co-OC. Tim Walton is now co-DC. Who else? Matt Guerreri got a promotion as well. Laughlin's still there. Tyler Bowen's new. A lot of changes. A lot of guys are coming. A lot of new faces on the coaching staff, even on the support staff. There's a lot of new faces there. What is it going to lead to when it comes to the expectations at Ohio State? You hope it leads to wins. You hope it leads to a successful formula. But do we truly know what's going to happen on the field in the fall? No. Do I expect Ohio State to lose to Wisconsin in the fall? No, I don't. I don't at all. Do I expect Ohio State to lose to Grambling in a massive upset? Not at all. So I do know certain things that I can project those things to happen, but there are still a lot of unknowns. A lot of them. And if I am Ryan Day with these unknowns, I got to figure out a way while there is not practice going on. I got to figure out a way to keep everybody level-headed while you don't know what's to come. You don't know what is coming. You don't know how things might change over the next few weeks and months leading into week 1 against Texas. It's kind of the last point I kind of had was kind of something that I just mentioned was, will these new faces even translate to wins? Not even with the high expectations. And this is not just a coaching conversation. But think about the new faces I mentioned earlier. Max Clare, CJ Donaldson, QB4, quarterback out of the portal. Will the new faces that Ohio State brought in, Ethan Anonma, Phillip Daniels, will they translate to wins? And you want to say yes. I mean, you absolutely want to buy into that Ohio State's formula and the blueprint that they've always had, that it will translate to wins because it has previously. I think the current formula Ryan Day's using is different than he used in the offseason leading into the game against Oregon, week 2 of that year in 2021, when Ohio State lost to Oregon at home. Was it 2021? I think it was, 2021 season. Ohio State lost that game, and it was to a team that they were better than. Like, I have no problem looking back now and saying, yeah, Ohio State was better than Oregon. What happened? Oregon was better on that day, but I think at the end of the day, if you're going to run that back, maybe get a video game from that year, wish we had one, you would say, oh, yeah, Ohio State wins that game 9 times out of 10. But what happened? Well, the one loss was that day. Inexperienced quarterback. There was some questionable play calling. There were some things on defense where guys weren't setting the edge properly, where the Oregon quarterback, can't remember his name, was able to slice and dice and weave his way through Ohio State's defense. I have no idea. I believe it'll translate to wins, 100%. But do we truly know what QB1's going to do this year as far as having concrete data and film to base an opinion on? No, we don't. We're literally speculating on things we know about these quarterbacks and using that to formulate opinions. I believe they'll be successful. Do I think they'll be undefeated in the regular season? Probably not. But if it happened, it happened, and I could see a path for that to happen in the future. One thing we know about Ohio State is there are things to come with this team. While there are things that are still unsettled, there are some things that Ohio State is currently looking forward to, and that is what's next for the Buckeyes as they move forward throughout the rest of the offseason. Thank you all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. One thing we have not done throughout this show, and we will not do throughout the rest of the show, is talk about the NBA Finals that happened last night. This is being recorded before the tip-off of Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and so I'm not going to try to speculate and say I'm not hang it over anybody's head or talk about the result because, well, that game ain't even tipped off yet. But one thing we do know, and while there is not a tip-off in football, there is a kickoff, and the annual kickoff to the Big Ten season is not week 0 or week 1. It is the Big Ten Media Days that'll be in Vegas this year, and it's the first year it'll be in Vegas. But that is a great time for Ohio State fans and players and coaches, Coach Ryan Day, to go out there and just represent the team very, very well. It's a massive stage in a very unique city that is going to allow Ohio State to really get a better handle. There'll be more media members that cover West Coast teams, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, USC. I guarantee there'll be more media members there from those 4 schools to cover those 4 schools than there would be if it was in Indianapolis. So while that's going to be the case, this is a great time to get a handle on the players. Will Jeremiah Smith, while he will be a true sophomore, go to Big Ten Media Days to represent Ohio State, where Ohio State normally will only send guys that are older, been around the program 3 or 4 or 5 years? It wouldn't shock me if Ryan Day said, Jeremiah Smith, you're coming with us to Vegas to represent the team. Also, if I had to pick the guys right now that I think would go to Vegas to represent Ohio State, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, and then on offense, do you bring a portal guy in Max Clare or C.J. Donaldson? Do you bring an offensive lineman and Carson Hinzman? That's probably who I would pick. Hinzman, Styles, and Downs. Those would be the 3 guys. Get you a lineman, get you a linebacker, get you a safety. Safety is, at worst, the second best player in the country. Styles is a guy that came to Ohio State while skipping a senior year of high school, a multi-year starter. Carson Hinzman played multiple positions, a multi-year starter, a guy who I think is I'm not saying it's going to happen, but can play himself into being a day 2 pick in the 2026 NFL draft. Those are the kind of guys that you want to bring to the Big Ten Media Days to represent the team. My picks right now, right here on the show, it wasn't planned, but you're getting it today, is Hinzman, Styles, and Downs. Those are the 3 guys I think Ohio State will take to the Big Ten Media Days. If they want to take somebody different on offense other than Carson Hinzman, Jeremiah Smith, if we want to take a different offensive lineman, Austin Servo. But I think Hinzman has earned his stripes. He's taken his bruises. He's won a lot of games. He's been versatile. He's been what you want from an Ohio State offensive lineman. Big Ten Media Days is coming up very, very soon in the middle of July. Fall camp is right after that, man. I mean, talk about being in a weird spot in the offseason to where there's no more recruiting. It's June 23rd is the date of this show. It's June 23rd. In a few weeks, it's Big Ten Media Days. A couple weeks after that is fall camp. We're going to go chronologically throughout the rest of this show. So you got fall camp around August 10th through 14th is when I think Ryan Day will announce a starting quarterback. Number 10, Julian Sayin is my pick to win that title. But that's where the nitty-gritty work gets done. That's where guys have to ramp up and get ready for week 1. And if you think getting ready for week 1 is already going to be intense, think about playing Texas week 1. So you got Big Ten Media Days, and you got fall camp, and then you got Texas, man. And Texas is one of those teams you can't look past. Even when you're playing a big boy week 1, maybe it'd be a conference team in Minnesota. Notre Dame recently had a home and home in back-to-back years. But Texas, I believe, is better. Like, Texas now is better than Notre Dame was in a home and home series there. Texas is better, definitely better than Minnesota in 2021. Texas is better. They also got Arch Manning. It's also Lee Corso's last show ever on ESPN College Game Day. It'll be in the shoe. It'll be in Columbus, Ohio. I mean, what else can you say about just the lead up and build up to the game and kick off at 12 noon on Big Fox? But then you got the game itself. Arch Manning, the new QB1 for the Longhorns, a guy that has been kind of ushered in as the early favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, he has a name of Manning, which holds a lot of weight. But that young man got a rocket. That kid can throw. Now, has he been able to throw like he thought he was going to early in his collegiate career? No. Is he going to be better this year? Absolutely. But that's coming week number 1. Now, I mentioned Downs and Styles and Hinsman and Servelt about guys and Smith about guys that are potentially going to be guys picked to represent Ohio State at the Big Ten Media Days. Well, those are also the same guys that got to get the team ready to battle, to fight week 1 against Texas. The luxury is it is at home. You're not going down to Austin for this game. You're staying at home, sleeping in your own bed, getting ready for the game that first game day. So there's going to be game day jitters. There's going to be game day excitement. There's going to be a lot of things different about this game, but it's that game. After that, let's fast forward. I'm even going to skip over Penn State because there's one game Ohio State under Ryan Day has struggled to win over the past 4 years. And I hate bringing up something that's a negative, but it's the reality that Ryan Day has struggled to beat Michigan. And I say struggled. I mean, last year's game was a game that Ohio State should have won by 40. They lost because for some reason this team had a poor game plan. And it was a game plan that when I look back at it, and I have not rewatched that game, I don't know if I'll ever rewatch that game. I'm a guy that watches film. I watch old games, man. I like watching ball, man. But that game gets under my skin like nothing else. And it probably gets under yours too, like nothing else does in life because that game is just different. It's a whole lot of build up to that game. It's a whole lot of back and forth. You got the whole sign stealing scandal. You got them beating Ohio State up front with the front seven and on the offensive line 4 years in a row. You got offensive line last year. Michigan's offensive line didn't really beat up Ohio State last year. Just Ohio State's defense couldn't make enough points, couldn't score enough points, score any points to help the team win because they were asked to do so much during that game last year. But man, this rivalry goes back for decades and decades and decades. And thinking about simply losing that game 4 years in a row, it almost makes me sick. And I don't normally get sick to where I want to, have things come up that should be going down. But man, that game does something to me. But that game is the 12th game of the regular season. The game that has sometimes knocked Ohio State of having the opportunity to win the Big Ten championship. Even in a year where there were no divisions, everybody and their mama thought before last year, Ohio State's a lock. Put it in pencil, baby, not put it in pen, baby, not pencil, to where Ohio State's going to be able to go to the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis, Indiana, but they lost to Michigan. So Penn State goes in there, plays pretty well against Oregon, actually. And I'm looking at that game thinking, Ohio State could beat Oregon right now. I know they lost in the game number 6 that year. They could beat Oregon now. Sorry, I know it's a victory Monday. Supposed to be happy about a lot of things, but this game gets under my skin. There's one thing I didn't mention about what's to come for Ohio State and where Ohio State goes from here. It's recruiting, man. Right now, Ohio State has 16 verbal commitments. None of those 16 guys that have verbally committed are a quarterback. They still need 5 defensive linemen. You need more guys to this team, to this unit, not just because for numbers. It's not about numbers thing. It's because you got to have guys in this class to make this class whole. Right now, it's incomplete. I won't say it's fractured because we're still in June, but right now it's incomplete. I firmly expect about 5 guys to commit to Ohio State, verbally commit before the end of July. At least 5. I'd be shocked if there are 4 or less guys verbally committed by the end of July because while there are no more official visits, people are going back to their families, going back to their homes, talking to their coaches, talking to their guardians, to parents to figure out what the best move is for them. So while Ohio State has a lot of things to come and where they go is preparing for the upcoming year. For week 1, for game 2, for game 3, we prepare to go back-to-back to win another national championship, to do something no other team has done in a 2-year span in Ohio State football history. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the portal, because my guy, Brian Smith, he's got the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the portal on the YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes right here on a Victory Monday. We'll see you next time.